that respect from Alibaba?
I guess there are multiple ways you can find premier suppliers. Besides the on-site check that I mentioned, because almost every gold supplier has to go through that. But also, you can also see how long this company has been, listed on a platform, because it does cost, some money for them to list it on a platform. So I would say the longer the longer they have been listed or doing business on a platform, the more serious that they are. So that's probably the first filter or level that I will use. And then the other one is, besides on-site check, I just mentioned something called supply assessment. So essentially, supply assessment is sort of like an ultimate verification tool that we partner with two well-known inspection company. One is TUV from Germany. The other one is BZ from Spain. So they send their inspector to these participated suppliers or manufacturers to do basically a naked review. They will look for information from the company structure, who's the CEO, the banking information, all the way down to their facility. So, and they will produce a downloadable report. And in the report, you normally will see all those business information as well as the production capability. What machine they use, what does the production line look like, what does the labor flow look like, things like that. So it's a complete 360 view of the company. So I definitely encourage the user and inventors to, when they look for a manufacturer, make that as a filter, because these companies, they are willing to pay for this inspection, so the inspector to inspect the company. That means they really want to give you the truth of who they are. They are very serious about doing the business.
Well, that's great.
So that's another level.
That's great to know that you have our back. That's very, very important. Now, continuing through trying to figure out who the right manufacturer is, I'll just share an experience with you, Michael. When I first started to use the Alibaba and source out some particular products, I actually asked the manufacturer who I spoke with, and by the way, to start a dialogue with one of the factories, you can actually just click on one of your instant message modules on the website. It shows if they're online or offline. If they're online,
right,
all you have to do is simply register, and all of a sudden you start talking to whoever it is in an instant message.
That's right.
And then what I did was, as I started to talk to them, we went off of Alibaba, and I asked them to go on Skype and I asked them, take your computer or your laptop and take me on a tour of your factory. And I did. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, very smart. And in fact, you did bring up a very good point when selecting a supplier, which is communication. I think I can't emphasize more how important this is. Even with all the tools, I think the users still need to do the due diligence to verify that who they're dealing with, and communication is a big piece. The supplier that you work with or you talk to, I'm sure that this is not scheduled, right? You're just on IM with them, and all of a sudden that they're willing to give you a virtual tour of the manufacturer. I mean, all these gestures, all these behaviors shows you that they are real. They are, willing to do business with you.
Absolutely. And then you start to get into a little bit more information. So if it's something, I don't really look to reveal my invention to somebody overseas right away, whether I'm protected or not. But what I do is I like to test out a factory, especially if it's a factory or a company that I've never used before. I always like to get references. But
Yep.
Let's say I'm kind of going on a whim and I'm looking for something specific out there, and I use your website. I speak to them and I say, okay, let me see what you have available, and I saw it on your website, and I'd like to order samples of what you have. Just not what my invention is and starting to manufacture my invention, but just something that you have available. And that gives me an opportunity to see how they react, respond. Do they say do they do what they say they're going to do? Has the quality when I receive it? Was it received on time? Did they follow up? So I go through this, and I have to say, I've had some great experiences, and I've had some poor experiences. And I have to say that the poor experiences, I found out sooner than later when doing it that way than sending my invention over, my blood, sweat, and tears of my invention for somebody to work on, and they couldn't get out a simple sample of their own product that they supposedly manufactured at that point. So
Yeah.
it's right. Due diligence, do your research. It's very important.
Absolutely. And like I said, you're very smart that you did that, because a lot of red flags will, usually came up in this process. And I would say normally a good suppliers who never, basically, if they want to do business with you, they will be patient with you. They would like to build a long-term relationship with you. And in fact, sourcing is just like building a relationship. It's no different than I guess. I always use the term online dating, right? You always find someone that you never met face-to-face, but, you always spend time to communicate with that person. And during this process, I think you will find out a lot from that relationship.
Sure. Now, all these countries that you're speaking to, Michael, when I'm doing, let's say, the instant message, I never really ask them, but I've spoken to manufacturers in India, Indonesia, and China, and all these different places, Taiwan. When I type in English, are they seeing it in English, or are they seeing it in their own language and typing to me in their own language, and I'm seeing it in English?
Yeah, they will see it in English.
They're seeing it in English.
That's right.
Okay, so do they have to have some kind of criteria or what have you to be able to know that when somebody from the U.S. is trying to reach out to them that they have to understand English to be able to do business with us?
Well, our website is an English site, right? In international trading, English is just a major language. Although we didn't state it that they must pass on an English test, I think by default people know that they have to, have basic English level to communicate. So, so we don't provide any translation service to, on the inquiries or any instant messages. So I think a lot of these companies, actually, from what I've seen or from what I've contacted, a lot of them actually will have employees in the company who can speak English. But at the same time, that's another thing that you should look into when you communicate with a supplier, because communication is very important. If you run into someone who can't even communicate with you, that's something you probably should think about, regardless of the capability.
Okay. I'm starting to build up quite a bit of questions, and I'd like to continue through the process of an inventor actually going through using the Alibaba site. But keep your questions coming in. We'll get to them. Brian@gotinvention.com. Keep emailing me, or you can go on the instant message within the module if you're listening live, and you can just chat on there as well. Okay, so, Michael, I also want to understand that once you go through and you start to get into a dialogue with a manufacturer, the contact information is on the website. Their Skype information sometimes is on the website. Their MSN, there's a few different ways that they look to communicate with you. But if they are online and you start a dialogue, or if you get in touch with them and you start to, you email them, or you go on a different platform and start to, basically you have some sort of communication that starts. What is it that we are speaking to them about? As inventors, we need to have our act together and know what we're asking, because these are factories that are busy, they're running different things, they have different products that they're manufacturing, and we may come to them with a custom order or a custom invention that they have to start to manufacture. So what do we really need to know, Michael? We need to know what kind of quantity, and you could see from the existing products that are on their website what sort of quantity, but they may not show necessarily custom orders what the quantity is. You mentioned before, and please help us to answer this, you've also mentioned MOQ, which you see on the website quite a bit, and FOB. So maybe if you can share some information with us so the inventors know what all that means and how to communicate with somebody when you're just starting.
Yeah. So I would say start with the communication first. So I always advise our buyer or user when they start communicating with the supplier, don't be shy to introduce yourself, because we have quite a bit of traffic every day to the site, and I'm sure these suppliers, they get a lot of inquiries every day. So if you could, yourself in their shoes, they probably get a lot of inquiries. But they will also spend time to go through those inquiries. So I guess they usually rank these inquiries by how serious the communication is. So I would always say first just introduce yourself, who you are. If you have a company, definitely tell them your company, or maybe show a website so that they also know you are a serious buyer. Because every day they probably just got a simple email and say, oh, how much is this, or how much it costs, things like that. Their time is valuable too. So they would obviously choose to respond to the serious buyer first. So first communication, like I said, always introduce yourself. Be specific what you're looking for. Don't be too generic. So that means when you contact them, you have to have in mind what really you're looking for, as opposed to a browsing, right? So that's something that I always advise my buyers to in the communication. But and also just segue a little bit, we have another tool that actually can help inventors to find a more appropriate suppliers or manufacturer other than just basic search. It's called customized sourcing. Now, this is something works like a quotation form. So basically, you go to this customized sourcing. There's a form you can fill out, and in the form, you can be as detailed as possible what you're looking for, even if the product or design doesn't exist today, or you can just simply show them part of the design, right? And then you can tell them exactly that, okay, initially I just want a prototype, or initially I only want 200 pieces or 500 pieces. So when you specify those things in the form, and then when you submit it, it actually will go to our the customer sourcing industry team. They will help you to find qualified suppliers that interest in that inquiry, and they will return up to 10 quotes for you. So that may be another way to to communicate or to find suppliers.
Where do you find that? Where is that, by the way? Is that on the front page of the website?
Yeah, it's on the front page of the website. If you go to Alibaba.com, it's in the center spot. It's said customer sourcing. If not, then you can find it on the right rail where our sourcing service. There's something called customer sourcing. You just need to click into that, and then there is pretty detailed information to show you how to use that.
Very interesting. And then we also spoke about, so that's a great way to just get out there. But if you do start a dialogue with a factory, the way I've usually done it, Michael, is I go in and I tell them I have a line of product, or I have a similar type of product that I'm looking to have manufactured, and I see that you do similar type of products. I think it might be potential for us to work together. I have the drawings done. I have CAD drawings done, and I'm interested in possibly a quote on a prototype or the manufacturing of it. And then they come back and they tell me what the MOQ is, and the FOB is where they're shipping from. And the MOQ, again, was minimum order quantity. And then I let them first start and tell me where they're at, and then I tell them, I'm not a big company. I'm just starting off. Obviously, the first order I'm going to use for samples and getting out there to buyers and trying to generate some opportunity, and that's when I'm going to be able to put in the larger orders. But I'm looking for somebody to work with me on a small scale to start with, and then be able to gradually move up with me. And also, for those inventors that might have limited budget, maybe to do some amortizing of the tooling. Sometimes the inventors forget about the tooling. It's great to find out that your product costs $250 to make, but you also have to be able to have special tooling made, injection molding, so specific to your specifications, actually, right?
Right, that's true.
So once we get all that and they come back with a quote, and you start going back and forth. But again, I always like to get samples of their products that they have, that they've been making existing, just to understand the relationship of the their response time and how their quality is of the products that they're currently making. But
yep, absolutely.
I have about, I'd say, like 6 emails here talking about intellectual property in some way or another. So here I am. I'm an inventor. I want to go out there and find the right manufacturer, and I look at Alibaba, and I'm in this conversation with the company. Fine, they sent me a sample that feels great and looks